Look at Mars. Right now, if you stepped onto its surface, you would die in minutes. Not from the cold, not from the radiation, from the silence. Mars is a graveyard, a dead, frozen, rust-colored wasteland where nothing moves, nothing breathes, nothing lives. The wind carries only dust. The sky is permanently the color of dried blood. But here is what haunts every planetary scientist who has ever studied this world. It was not always like this. 4 billion years ago, Mars was not a graveyard. It had a thick atmosphere. It had clouds. It had rain. Rivers carved through its surface and emptied into vast oceans that covered nearly half the planet. The air was warm enough to drink. The sky was blue. Mars was not just habitable. Mars was almost perfect. And then something happened. Something so catastrophic, so total, so irreversible, that it stripped this living world down to its bones and left behind nothing but a cold, silent corpse drifting in the dark. Stay with me until the end. What I am about to tell you will shock you. If it does, hit like. If it doesn't, hit dislike. Either way, you will never look at that red dot in the night sky the same way again. We have been looking at Mars for centuries, through telescopes, through rovers, through orbiters. We have photographed every crater, every canyon, every dust storm. We have scooped its soil, analyzed its rocks, tasted its atmosphere. And for most of that time, we told ourselves a comfortable story. Mars was always like this. A cold, dry, dead world. A planet that never had a chance. Too small, too far from the sun, too weak to hold onto an atmosphere. That story is wrong. The evidence has been piling up for decades, and it points to something far more disturbing. Mars did not slowly fade. Mars did not quietly run out of steam. Mars was destroyed, systematically, completely, by a force so powerful that it reached across the entire planet and tore away everything that made it alive. The question was never whether Mars had life. The question is what killed it before it had the chance. The proof is written directly into the surface of Mars. The Valle Marineris. A canyon system so enormous, it stretches nearly 4,500 kilometers across the face of the planet. For context, that is roughly the width of the entire United States. And it was carved, not by tectonics, not by volcanic activity, by water, flowing, rushing, ancient water that once moved across this world with enough force to sculpt rock on a continental scale. Look further north. The entire northern hemisphere of Mars sits several kilometers lower than the south. Planetary scientists call this the Martian dichotomy. The most widely accepted explanation is that this lowland basin was once filled with a vast ocean, an ocean larger than the Arctic on Earth, with waves, with tides, with depth, and the minerals do not lie. Rovers have found clay minerals, sulfates, carbonates, compounds that only form in the presence of liquid water over long periods of time. Not a flash flood, not a brief thaw, billions of years of stable, persistent, flowing water. Mars was wet. Mars was warm. Mars was alive with the chemistry that makes life possible. So what happened? Every murder has a weapon. On Mars, the weapon was invisible, silent, and it came from 225 million kilometers away. The Sun. Mars today has almost no magnetic field, a thin, fragmented, barely measurable whisper of magnetism in isolated patches of ancient crust. But the rocks tell a different story. Billions of years ago, Mars had a global magnetic field, a powerful, invisible shield surrounding the entire planet, just like Earth has today. That shield was everything. Earth's magnetic field deflects the solar wind, the constant stream of charged particles blasting outward from the sun at hundreds of kilometers per second. Without it, those particles would strip away our atmosphere, layer by layer. They would tear apart the molecules of air we breathe and scatter them into space. Mars lost its magnetic field. Scientists believe that approximately 4 billion years ago, Mars's molten iron core cooled and solidified. When the core stopped moving, the dynamo that generated the magnetic field switched off, like unplugging a machine, and then the solar wind went to work. Slowly, at first, then faster. The charged particles from the sun began slamming into the Martian atmosphere with nothing to stop them. They ionized the upper atmosphere, gave it enough energy to escape into space, and carried it away particle by particle. The thick, warm atmosphere thinned. The pressure dropped. The oceans began to evaporate. The rivers ran dry. The rain stopped falling. The temperature plummeted. Mars did not die in a single catastrophic moment. It suffocated, slowly, over hundreds of millions of years, gasping for atmosphere as the sun quietly stole it away. NASA's MAVEN spacecraft confirmed this directly. It measured the rate at which the solar wind is still stripping Mars's remaining atmosphere today. Even now, billions of years after the magnetic field collapsed, Mars is still losing atmosphere, still bleeding into space, still dying. The murder weapon was the sun, and it is still at the scene of the crime. Here is where it gets deeply uncomfortable. If Mars had kept its magnetic field, if that iron core had stayed molten just a little longer, everything would be different. Mars would still have its atmosphere. The oceans would still be full. The rivers would still flow. The temperature would be cold, but survivable. And with billions of years of stable liquid water and the right chemistry, life might have started. Not just microbial life clinging to rocks. Complex life. Evolving life. Life with time enough to crawl out of the oceans and onto the land. Life with time enough to look up at the stars. We will never know what Mars could have become. But the rovers have given us one final haunting clue. In 2022, NASA's Perseverance rover discovered organic molecules, the basic chemical building blocks of life, preserved in ancient lake sediment in Jezero crater. These molecules are not proof of life, but they are proof of the ingredients. The raw materials were there. The kitchen was stocked. Something turned off the oven before the meal could cook. And here is the part that should keep you awake at night. Earth has a magnetic field too, generated by its own molten iron core, spinning in the deep dark center of our planet. That core is cooling, slowly, over billions of years. One day, Earth's core will solidify. One day, Earth's magnetic field will weaken, and the solar wind will come for us too. We sent our first spacecraft to Mars in 1965. Since then, we have sent more than 50 missions, orbiters, landers, rovers. We have driven across its plains, drilled into its rocks, photographed its moons. We have spent billions of dollars and decades of human effort trying to understand one question. What happened to you? There is something deeply human about that question. Mars is our neighbor, our mirror, a world that had every ingredient we have: water, atmosphere, chemistry, time, and lost it all anyway. It is a warning written in rust across 144 million square kilometers of dead planet. It is the universe telling us something we do not want to hear. Survival is not guaranteed. Not for planets, not for atmospheres, not for life. The conditions that make Earth habitable right now are not permanent. They are fragile, maintained by a spinning iron core and a magnetic field and a precise distance from a star that is itself slowly changing. Mars had all of that once. Mars lost it, and no one was there to notice until it was already over. Tonight, go outside and find Mars in the sky. It will be there, a steady red point of light, neither twinkling nor moving, just watching. It has been watching for 4 billion years. It watched its own oceans evaporate. It watched its sky turn from blue to the color of rust. It watched its rivers run dry, and its surface freeze into silence. It does not know we are here. It does not know we are asking questions about what killed it. But we are asking, and the answers we are finding are not just about Mars. They are about us. They are about how fragile the line is between a living world and a dead one, between blue skies and rust, between oceans and dust. Mars was once perfect. Something murdered it, and the same weapon is aimed at us. Keep looking up.